or would like to refer back to this again, but let's start off with introductions. My name is Allie Reed. I am the Study Abroad and Off-Campus Programs Advisor here at SNC. I will be also working with you through your application for the Benjamin A. Gilman International Scholarship as well. And I will let Gail introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gail Gilbert, and I am our Director of Study Abroad and Off-Campus Programs here at the college. I will have to jump out to another meeting today, but I wanted to be here just to welcome you. Thank you for coming and to tell you how committed we are to working with this scholarship. Both Allie and I have a strong goal of getting as many SNC students as possible to apply for the scholarship, be able to use it for study abroad programs, and really make sure that we can help to make these things work for you. So both Allie and I are here to support you in any way possible with the scholarship, and Allie will be your primary point of contact, but if you ever need anything, you can also come to me as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Gail. So like Gail said, this is a really amazing scholarship. So I'll just introduce it a little bit. The Benjamin A. Gilman Scholarship is a program of the U.S. State Department. So it's a federally funded program by the U.S. government. And it has been administered by the Institute of International Education, or IIE for short. You'll see that acronym a little bit later in this presentation. But the Gilman Scholarship Program has become the largest U.S. undergraduate scholarship program supporting U.S. students of high financial need to participate in study abroad programs and international internships. So the Gilman is one of the many ways to help students go abroad, and that's really the big goal of the Gilman program and why we market it so heavily and why we really want to get our students here at SNC to go abroad. However, it is more than just a scholarship. It is a program to help you access life-changing experiences through study abroad, an opportunity for students to give back to their community and become a part of a legacy that will continue to be with them ongoing. So, there we go. So like I said, it is a U.S. Department of State sponsored scholarship through the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. They have a wide range of academic, professional, and cultural exchanges with the goal of increasing mutual understanding and respect between the people of the U.S. and of other countries. The Gilman Scholarship is just one of the many programs through this organization, and Gilman Scholars become a part of a network of approximately 40,000 people who participate in these programs each year. The Gilman is also within the Office of USA Study Abroad, which also has the same goal of committing to shaping and sustaining a more peaceful, prosperous, and just world by increasing and diversifying participation in study abroad. By supporting undergraduate students who have high financial need, the program has been successful with historically underrepresented populations in education abroad, including but not limited to first-generation college students, students in the STEM fields, ethnic minority students, students with disabilities, students at HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions, and students attending community colleges, and students coming from U.S. with less study abroad participation. So these are some of the different components that they are looking for in a Gilman applicant, but you can see some of the statistics here of where they send students and what kind of students they are looking for. Now the scholarship, that's the big and most important thing, the most appealing thing. So throughout the entire academic year, they award over 3,000 scholarships. So it's not just the Gilman Scholarship, but there is another scholarship called the Gilman McCain. It's like the sister scholarship, and awards associated with other government partnerships that they have. They have different partnerships with other schools like the Gilman Global Whale Scholarship. They have one with New Zealand and France as well. But students can receive up to $5,000 to use towards costs related to their study abroad, such as tuition fees, room and board, transportation. These amounts will vary depending on need, the strength of the application, and the program, the overall cost of the program. Students can apply for the scholarship toward fall, spring, summer, winter, or academic year programs. So you don't have to be just a semester study abroad student. You can use it, for some of our global seminars. You can use it for really any sort of study abroad experience. And one of the big questions that students will ask is, what are the chances of me receiving the scholarship? And 1 in 4 students actually receive a Gilman Scholarship, which are pretty good odds if you ask me. So if you are selected for a Gilman Scholarship, recipients will utilize a password protected and secure Gilman recipient portal to input all fund distribution and information. So you will never be contacted, just to, keep you safe. You'll never be contacted by phone or email to provide personal bank information. That will all be securely done as well. All right, so this is a separate scholarship that you can get on top of the Gilman Scholarship. So the Gilman Scholarship is $5,000, but if you decide to do the Critical Need Language Award, that's an additional $3,000 that you could win. So applicants who are studying a critical need language in a country where the language is predominantly spoken can apply for a supplemental award for up to $3,000, so an $8,000 total. So as you'll see, these are the critical languages, and you don't have to have any previous experience or training in these languages in order to get the critical need language. You just need to be in a country where the language is spoken for the most part, or in a program that facilitates most of your learning in this language. So in addition to receiving additional funds for this, students who win this award complete their Gilman Scholarship requirements will be offered the opportunity to take an oral proficiency interview. This test and the results will serve as an evaluation and measure of the award, as well as credential for the award recipient. So you don't have to have some previous language, but you can, and that can help you with your application as well. So there's a lot of options there, and we do have programming in most of these areas as well. So if you're like, oh, well, we don't even have a program to Japan, we do have programs to Japan and some of these other places where critical languages are needed. Okay, so the big question, how do I know if I'm eligible to be a Gilman applicant? Hopefully you are through our various marketing. We try to get to students who would be eligible for this, but these are the main criteria. You need to be a citizen of the United States. You need to be at an undergraduate student and in good standing at an accredited institution. So this is both 2-year and 4-year institutions. So at SNC, you're good to go there. You also need to be receiving a Pell Grant during the time that you will be studying abroad. So even if you're not a Pell Grant recipient last semester, but next semester when you plan to go abroad, you will be receiving a Pell Grant, then you would qualify for this. If you're not sure that if you receive a Pell Grant, you can talk to your financial aid advisor and they will let you know. The other criteria, obviously, is you need to be in the process of applying to or accepted for a study abroad program. That's where I can help you, obviously. Even if you are not sure when you want to study abroad or if you'll study abroad, come in and talk to me and I can do some advising with you to figure out when's the best time for you to study abroad, because they do Gilman applications twice a year. So you'll be able to find a cycle that's good for you and right for when you're ready to study abroad. And not only do you have to be studying abroad, but you have to be studying abroad at a credit-bearing program. So at a program where you will receive academic credit for that. And all of the programs that we work with in our office are credit-bearing programs. So that's not an issue if you go through SNC, that is. And then the last one is the travel advisory level. So this is based on the US State Department. And we go with these travel guidelines as well, is that your country needs to be at a level 1 or 2 for you to study abroad. A level 3 or 4 is not, no, you cannot go abroad for both us and for Gilman. The caveat with that is right now, because of COVID, a lot of our countries are at a level 3 or 4. There are hardly any countries that are at a level 1 or 2. So what we found with Gilman, and I've talked to some people at the Gilman Scholarship organization to ask about this, but as of right now, you can, if your country's at a 3 or 4, still apply for your Gilman application. And if that level has not been raised to a level 2 within 2 weeks of your departure, then you will not be able to go, and you can defer your application. So let's say you apply for the scholarship, you won, but your country is still at a level 3 by the time that you leave. You can defer that to a different semester, so you can wait a semester to study abroad when your country will be safer, and they can do that. But if it goes up to a level 2 and then you're good to go, then you'll still be able to get that funding and you'll still be able to study abroad. Okay. Is that all I had to say about that? Yes. You can decline the scholarship as well if you want to. But once you decline the scholarship, you're not. Oh wait, I need to check on that. I think you are still eligible if you decline the scholarship and, let's say, decide to go a different semester. All right. And then the last point there is program minimum. So this isn't a big deal for semesters, but let's say you do a global seminar with us, like a short term over the summer or J term, you need to have a minimum of 3 weeks, so exactly 21 days within your program for it to be eligible for funding. If it's less than 21 days, then you would not be eligible. And this is new. In the age of COVID, virtual programs are also eligible to receive the Gilman Scholarship. So if it's an online course through an accredited institution, like we said, then you would be able to participate. So any of our exchange program providers, faculty-led, virtual faculty-led programs, which you do not have at this time, virtual international internships, or any other intensive language programs. And they do say that you can propose an alternative internationally focused virtual program for review. So really they're open to working with students to make sure they can get their international education experience before they graduate. So if you don't know, just ask. So this is a sister scholarship that I had talked about earlier. This is the Gilman McCain Scholarship. This is $5,000 scholarship as well, but the eligibility is very distinct from the regular Gilman Scholarship. So for this scholarship, they get $5,000 to the children or dependents of active duty service members to study or intern abroad on credit-bearing programs. So this was developed under the framework in partnership with Senator John McCain to help children in military families go abroad. Some of the other things, it's a lot of the same requirements that Gilman received, a lot of the same eligibility criteria that regular Gilman programs need, except for that they are dependents of active duty military. They do not have to be Pell Grant recipients, but they do have to be a recipient of any type of Title IV financial aid. So that's the main difference, is that the financial part is a little bit different, and they have to be dependents of active duty military. So if you know anyone like that, send them our way. So again, I kind of talked about this. What are the main differences? These are pretty much the main differences. So the eligibility is a little bit different. The application is slightly different, as well as the selection panelists. For Gilman McCain, they only get $5,000, whereas with the regular Gilman, they can apply for the Critical Need Language Scholarship to get that extra $3,000. And with the Gilman McCain, they only do 100 awards, whereas with the regular Gilman Scholarship, they offer like 3,000 scholarships to students. So it's a lot bigger with the Gilman program. All right. Now, how do you apply? Great question. So the first step is the most important step. You'll have an online application portal. It will ask for your study abroad / internship program details. You'll have to write 3 essays. You will have to give them an undergraduate transcript. The Gilman program requires transcripts for applicants' current institution and transcripts from any previous institutions they attended. So if you're a transfer student here at SNC, you not only will you need the SNC transcript, but you'll need a transcript from your previous institutions as well. These can be official or unofficial. So when you are applying for a study abroad, specifically a semester program with us, we ask for your transcript anyway. So it shouldn't be that big of a deal because we should already have it on file when you are applying for your Gilman. But that's something we can help you with too, is getting your transcripts. So, and I'll talk about the essay a little bit more in depth in the next few slides. But the other part of this is that you will need your study abroad advisor, so that's me, and your financial aid advisor to certify your application. So once you have submitted your application, it needs to be certified by those two people. We have our own separate deadline. So about, I think it's a week or 10 days after you submit your application is when we have to certify it and say, yes, they're a Pell Grant recipient, and yes, they're studying abroad on a accredited program. All right, let's get into the essays. So these are the most important part of your application and probably the part that is weighed most heavily in your application, okay? So for all Gilman applications, there are two main essays. There are 3 essays if you're applying for the Critical Need Language Award. So the first one is a statement of purpose. It has a maximum of 7,000 characters, which isn't that many characters, really. It's enough. It's about a page and a half, roughly. The essays are important because selection panelists, advisors, and administrators at U.S. campuses review these applications, and it is their only way of getting to know who you are and your reasons for studying abroad. In the application, the Gilman program provides prompts for each essay, questions that you should consider in your essay. So I have served as a Gilman panelist twice. So last year for both semesters, I was a Gilman panelist. I was a panelist for regular Gilman scholarships and for the Critical Need Language Award, and I learned a lot from that. And it really is true. That's the only way you get to know the student. And what panelists want to do is they want to get to know you, because the more they know you, the more likely they're going to want to give you money. So really dig into these essays and really, share your hopes, your dreams, what you want to get out of the Gilman Scholarship Program. It is very important that you spend, a significant amount of time on these essays because they are really your gateway into the scholarship program. So the statement of purpose essay is essentially a personal interview on paper. You should talk about the impact of study abroad on your academic goals, professional goals, personal growth, as well as how the Gilman Scholarship can help you accomplish these goals. You should also touch upon what inspired you to study abroad and what challenges you have faced in studying abroad. So they can describe knowledge, skills, and experience that you can be drawn on to meet challenges in your study abroad experiences. So some of the best essays I have read kind of incorporate, personal narrative, personal stories into their essay. It's a way not only for me to get to know them, but to see, that they really want it. Just saying, very vague statements like, I really like study abroad. I've always wanted to study abroad. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But tell me more about that. Lead me through, your life, your process, your dreams, and what has brought you to where you are now. All students applying to the Gilman program have financial need. That's one of the criteria. So you may speak of this, but elaborate on other challenges you may face in addition to that. So that, again, all students have financial need, so don't emphasize that too much in your essay because that is one of the criteria for why you are applying to this scholarship. You can definitely talk about it, but don't spend too many of your characters emphasizing that part of your essay. In your application, okay, I already talked about that, but so it's 7,000 characters. Did I already talk about this? Yes, I did. So these are just some of the leading questions to ask yourself as you are going through your essay to help you make sure you have a really good essay. They do have leading questions in the prompt. Don't feel like you should answer them robotically. Use a story about yourself to answer all and touch on all of the different parts of the essay. All right, essay number 2, the community impact essay. So there are 2 community impact essays that are both required and are equally important in the selection of the Gilman Scholarship. We strongly encourage you to read the selection criteria, community impact abroad and students return home. So the community impact is building a mutual understanding essay that requires you to answer how you will be a U.S. citizen diplomat as a Gilman scholar while abroad. Key aspects to this essay are how you will be a U.S. representative abroad and how you will seek opportunities to become more culturally engaged and have meaningful interactions with people from different cultures on your abroad program. So this one has 3,000 maximum characters as well. And again, these don't have to be super groundbreaking ideas that you come up with, but it just has to be well thought out. Again, some questions to ask yourself as you are going through it. How you represent, how you contribute, meaningful relationships, culturally engaged. All those are very important. So then there is the community impact or the follow-on service project proposal. So all Gilman scholars are expected to do a follow-on service project after they complete their, time abroad as a Gilman scholar. The follow-on service project proposal requires you to answer how you will represent the Gilman program upon your return home by requiring you to design a project to promote the Gilman Scholarship. In this essay, you are asked to map out a potential project for them to complete upon their return. They'll encourage others to study or intern abroad and spread the awareness of the Gilman Scholarship. This project can be completed either on campus, in your local community, but it must be completed within 6 months of your return. So some of the key aspects are how you'll be a good U.S. representative at home and the creativity and feasibility of your follow-on service project. So again, it doesn't have to be like super groundbreaking or the most like elaborate, time-consuming idea, but it just has to be practical and well thought out and well explained in your essay, why you're doing it, how it will impact your community. And again, that's another 3,000 character essay. Some considerations. Like we talked about, feasibility, awareness, who's your intended audience. Some really good follow-on service projects can be very simple. I saw a really good one about, working with elementary school kids in their hometown because they lived in a town with mostly, Hispanic students, and they wanted to reach out to those students because they're underrepresented in not only higher education, but study abroad. So something really simple like that could be really great, or even like creating Gilman promotional materials for your college. Those are good ones too as well. It doesn't have to be crazy, but it can be simple and really impactful at the same time. All right. So then we have the Critical Need Language Award. So for this one, you need to answer very basic things like, is this a legitimate critical need language? Which should be pretty obvious. If you can't say yes to that question, you probably shouldn't be applying for the Critical Need Language Award. Is it predominantly spoken in the country you're going to? How does it relate to your goals and your motivations for studying or improving upon that language? And that one's a 2,000 character one, so it's a little bit shorter. Okay. Now, here are some of the criteria that panelists will look to when they are looking at each of your essays. So for me, when I was serving as a Gilman panelist, I looked at between 50 to 70 different applications. And I was just me, one panelist out of, probably 100, maybe more. So there's a lot of applications to look at, but there are some criteria we look at. So the first one is the impact of the program and destination on the student's academic and career trajectory. So a successful applicant in this area will demonstrate a coherent link between their proposed program, abroad activities, and their future academic and or career plans, as well as personal development goals. Students should detail the different aspects of their program and articulate how their participation and recipient of the Gilman Scholarship would support the achievement in their goals. So I mean, it's great if you've always wanted to visit Italy, but if that's the only reason you can give for why you should go on this program, that's not going to be very appealing to panelists. That's cool. It's fine if the program you're going to is somewhere you've always wanted to go, but incorporate that into your career trajectory. The second one is the community impact, both abroad and when you return home. So this is kind of where that follow-on service project gets weaved in there. The mission of the State Department and Cultural Affairs is to increase mutual understanding between the people of the US and other countries, as we talked about before. And this scholarship plays an essential role. So in this statement, you have to be able to adequately tell us why you should be going on that and how you're going to be kind of a diplomat or ambassador to the US, and how your impact will not only improve your relationship with other countries, but here at home and awareness of the Gilman Scholarship. So Gilman Scholars are expected to contribute to the goal of building mutual understanding by sharing what it means to be an American, learning about a host culture, and building meaningful relationships. So this academic preparedness section, this is kind of why they want to see a transcript as well, though it is not weighed super heavily against you. So if you have, like, there's no GPA requirement for the Gilman program. So if your GPA is kind of low, that's fine. Our minimum GPA for participating in study abroad is a 2.5. But not just us, but also the US State Department is committed to ensuring that Gilman Scholars are successful on their programs abroad, and that competitive applicants must demonstrate academic preparedness in order to gain benefits from study abroad and other international internship programs. They should disclose any significant challenges they have faced in their academic career, and then discuss how they will be academically successful in their study abroad program. Academic performance, particularly the applicant's major, is important, though there is no minimum grade point average for participating in the Gilman program. So that can sometimes work in a student's benefit. Say you started off freshman year with kind of a low GPA, and you can talk about, how maybe freshman year was tough for you and how you've grown and done better throughout school as you've learned and improved yourself. I did see that Cynthia had her hand up. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so when you were talking about academic preparedness, does this mean we can only apply our sophomore and junior year, or would this also be a possibility for us our senior year?
Great question. You can apply your senior year. We don't have a limit. So for us here at SNC, the only thing is we discourage study abroad your final semester. Now with COVID and everything, we're making exceptions for that because students aren't getting the chance to study abroad when they wanted to in the first place. But you can apply for your senior year to do this as well. Great question.
Thank you.
All right. Diversity of background and experience. So this is one of the biggest things that panelists look at when they're reviewing applications. So obviously, like I talked about, the US Department Gilman program seeks participation by the broadest group of American undergraduate students with financial need who will benefit from knowledge, skills, and experiences they acquire when studying abroad. By supporting students who have high financial need, the program has been successful in supporting students who have been historically underrepresented in education abroad. Students' knowledge, skills, and personal experiences are considered in the context of overall impact that proposed study abroad program will have on them. However, they will overcome any anticipated challenges during the program and their ability to be a representative of the United States and the Gilman program. So some of the things that they look for here, and they might ask some of these things in the application, but if they don't, you should definitely highlight them in your essay. Preference is given to those who have not studied abroad before. So I'm assuming most of us here in this meeting have not studied abroad before. If you have not studied abroad before, that automatically moves you up. Very few students who have studied abroad twice actually apply for this program, but it does happen. Veterans who have served active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces, so Army, Marine, Navy, Air Force, or Coast Guard, they're also given preference as well. So if anyone, is a veteran here, you will be given preference as well. First generation college students will be given preference as well. So what does that mean? That means you are the first person in your family to attend college. Students in STEM fields, STEM is underrepresented in study abroad. So that's science, technology, engineering, math fields. If you are a racial or ethnic minority, that gives you a little bit of an advantage. Students with disabilities, so this is not just physical disabilities, this could be, intellectual, I guess, ones, or emotional maybe, attention, so like ADD, ADHD. If you are on the spectrum for, what can I think of what it's called right now? But any sort of disabilities, not just physical disabilities, give you a upper hand as well. Students attending minority serving institutions and community colleges, unfortunately, we are neither of those. And then students from the US states and institutions with lower study abroad participation and more. So we are not a low study abroad participation state either. So those last two wouldn't really apply to us, but if any of those other things give you like a diverse identity, that would be something they look at as well. So that's another thing when I'm advising students on the Gilman is really talk about your identity, talk about who you are. I know sometimes that can make you feel, or talking about your identity can be a little bit uncomfortable, but no one's going to read your application except for the panelists, and you don't even meet the panelists either. Like I've never met any of the students whose applications that I've read. So feel free to be a little bit vulnerable, talk about your identity and maybe some of the challenges you face with your identity, because we want to see diversity. We want to see, the real student and the real individual come out through their application. And then additionally, for our critical need language, that's an extra one if you go for that critical language award, is proficiency and commitment to the critical language. So for most of these, you don't have to have previous experience. I think there are a couple, it might be Chinese and Japanese, that they prefer you have some previous experience, but your proficiency will not be related to whether or not you get the award. So just because you have a low level of Japanese, let's say, doesn't mean that you're disqualified. It's the commitment that matters the most. Okay. All right, so these are what some of the deadlines and timelines look like too as we go through it. So like I said, there are two different cycles. So there's the applicant deadline, which is the deadline for students to have their application submitted. There's the advisor deadline, which I talked about as when we have to certify your application. And then these are the two cycles. So the March 2021 deadline, so it's the same every year. And they kind of coincide with our study abroad application deadlines. So you kind of have to keep these in mind because you're like basically filling out two applications at the same time. So their March 2021 deadline, it opens mid-January. It actually opened like late January this year, but and then it closes on March 2nd. And I think our deadline is March 1st. But if the first falls on a weekend, then it's, the next weekday is when our applications are due. And then the advisor deadline is a week after that. October, same thing. It'll open about mid-August. It'll be due October 5th. So our application might be due a little bit earlier, the first day in October, that's not a weekend. And then the advisor deadline is a week later. Remember that these deadlines are in Pacific time. So there's that asterisk up there, 11:59 Pacific time. We're in the central time zone. So please make notes on your calendars, in your agendas, whatever, to make sure that you don't turn everything in late. And their website is always updated with the most. So if you're not going to study abroad for a couple of years, you'll either hear an email from me or see something in SNC News. Otherwise, their website is always up to date too on their deadlines. And you'll also notice that their scholarship program start dates kind of overlap. So for this March deadline, it's if your program starts between May 2021 and April 2022. So that's for the start of your program. And then for the October one, it's programs that start between December 2021 and October 2022. So I suppose there is potential for you to maybe apply for both cycles. But yeah, that's something you can think about. All right, now some hot tips for your application. So it is important to take the opportunity in your essay to really demonstrate who you are. So I've emphasized this a lot, but a student who says they just want to go somewhere is not as compelling as a student who talks about the impact of their proposed program. So for both of your essays, make sure you fully answer the prompts that are both creative but realistic, and that you invest time in writing drafts, editing, and having other proofread your essays. I'm totally open to looking at your essays as someone who has, been on these panels. I would love to look at your essays if you want me to. Otherwise, the Writing Center is a great resource. Any family or friends or professors that would have time to look at your essays, really make sure a lot of people are reading it so that you have the best possible essay. Panelists are not supposed to fault you for, grammar or punctuation or spelling errors, but I think there is an unconscious bias for panelists to think you're not as good of an applicant if you have more mistakes in your essay. Again, they're not supposed to hold that against you, but in my experience, sometimes they look at an essay that's not as well written and say, oh, I didn't like this essay because of that, bias there. An essay that's well written, it's easier to read, it's more pleasurable to read, so make sure that you are really editing and proofreading your essay. Again, you wouldn't believe how many students we have every year that write study aboard instead of study abroad. So you're typing fast, autocorrects to study aboard instead of study abroad. Those little mistakes are noticeable and distracting. So make sure, again, you're proofreading, take extra steps, make correction, because that's the least distracting thing for panelists to want you to get a scholarship. Before you hit submit your application, you have the opportunity to review your application before you finally submit it. Take time to check for accuracy regarding all information you've inputted. Putting the wrong information may cause your application to not meet eligibility requirements and therefore put you out of scholarship considerations. So I don't think that's super common, but always right before you hit the send button, make sure everything looks good, because it is a good scholarship and you don't want to mess it up with just one little mistake, right? So these are all simple steps, and they work best when you start the process as early as possible, not waiting till the last minute to submit. And panelists can tell when you waited till last minute to submit. Usually your essays aren't as good or well thought out. So really start as early as possible, especially if you're in this meeting and you're not planning to go abroad for maybe a year or two. Start thinking about your essays, maybe when we have breaks in the summer or in the J term, maybe start working on your essay then and just kind of have a draft that you can go back and forth to until you actually are ready to submit your application. So every cycle we have students who have questions the night of the application deadline. I do check my email quite often. I won't check my email in the middle of the night, and I try to be as available to students, especially close to deadlines. But in general, make sure you are on top of it and you're applying early and getting your questions out of the way early. Please know we are not available. Again, this is kind of my general rule. I'm not available outside of office hours unless I see it's an emergency, but make sure you take care of all your questions as early as possible, and make sure you stay updated with us through phone, email. You can look at Gilman we'll see in a different slide, they have a lot of social media accounts that you can do or follow. So you've decided you want to study or intern abroad. You've determined you're eligible for the Gilman Scholarship, but you know that it's competitive. You might wonder what makes a strong application. Again, plan early. You'll need to coordinate a lot of information related to your program abroad, your academics at home, financial aid, logistics, how much time you're going to spend working on your essays and actually completing the application. As well as transcript, which I told you, it does take us a couple days, especially since we're not on campus right now. Hopefully that's not the case forever. I'm on campus right now, but I'm only on campus once a week. So if you request a transcript and I'm not in the office, it could take a week before I can actually receive it and help you with it. So again, plan early. A survey of previous applicants indicated that it takes an average of 5 to 10 hours to complete the Gilman Scholarship application. So if you begin planning early, you will be sure to have a quality application in way before the deadline. So talk to your advisors, talk to me about where you want to study abroad or any tips on the Gilman. You can bounce ideas off of me. I can read your application if you'd like. I'm totally open to that, or, use your resources in your own group, whether that be friends, faculty, anyone else. Just make sure you're getting a lot of feedback because that'll make your application better. Spend time on your essays. For both your essays, make sure you fully answer the prompts. Oh, I already talked about this. Sorry, my notes are a little disorganized. All right, so there are lots of benefits to being an alumni too. So it's not just getting a scholarship to study abroad, but there are other things as well. For example, there are seminars and career workshops. These are available to all Gilman scholars and alumni to network with each other and connect with other alumni. They're also a great place to learn about many other career opportunities in your field. There's skills development. Wherever you go abroad and learn new skills, you're adapting, you're changing, you're learning a new language, how to communicate with others, and so much more. There's an ambassador program and really a lot of great things that come out of the Gilman Scholarship. So it is really, like I said, it's the biggest scholarship program, and really it's something great to have on your resume and that people will recognize as you're going out into the workforce after your time here at SNC. All right, here's some of the social media stuff that I had talked about. Lots of ways to stay connected with Gilman. They have an Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. They have a blog. I follow them on Instagram, and I try to share their stuff to our Instagram so that you guys, know what's going on as we go through the different cycles, but they're everywhere. All right, and then we have a lot of other kind of partner or sister programs with the Gilman that are run through the U.S. government. So one is the Critical Language Scholarship Program. I know we talked about the Critical Need Language Award through the Gilman, but there's a separate program as well. So if you're really interested in language study, the Critical Language Scholarship Program is a summer program. It's 100% funded for you to go and spend a summer somewhere and learn one of the critical languages. You can apply for both of these programs as well. So let's say you do a semester with the Critical Need Language Award with the Gilman. You could also apply for a summer with the Critical Language Scholarship Program. You can't do what you're not like forced to do one or the other. You could do both if you wanted to. So this program is great. The application usually opens, I want to say it opens in October or maybe September, but the deadline's always in November. So that's something we always post about on our Instagram and Facebook page as well, because it is a 100% funded, fully free to you program in the summer for studying abroad, but it's related to language. So if studying language is not interesting to you, it might not be your best fit. So there's also these other two programs, the Fulbright program. If you haven't heard of Fulbright Scholars, it's a really great program as well. And then the Boren Scholarship Program and fellowships as well. We do have a couple people on campus who are like specific advisor for Fulbright and Boren. So if you're interested in that, let me know and I can pass you off to those people on campus because they know a lot about those programs. They're very great programs, very prestigious programs as well. All right, and last but not least, my contact information. So again, my name is Allie. I'm located in Bemis 319. Right now, we're not doing in-person appointments, but hopefully, once we get past all of this, you can come visit me in my office. That's my email there, and that is my office number. Again, I'm not in the office all the time, but if you call my number and leave a message, it gets forwarded to my email and I can call you back. And that URL on the bottom is our website to look at all of our study abroad programs as well. So I did a lot of talking, but please, we have about 15 minutes left. If there are any questions at all, feel free to unmute yourself or type it in the chat. And we can talk about it.
I just have a quick question regarding like the scholarship. Like I know I want to study abroad, but I still don't have like any idea of like what I would like to do in the sense of that. So like instead of like jumping right into the scholarship, would it be possible for me to like make up a time to meet up with you and like discuss what I could possibly do, like having to do with my major and everything?
Yeah, of course. So Cynthia, I will email you after this to set up an advising appointment. We can figure out where you want to go and then when you can apply for the Gilman.
Yeah, I had basically like the same question, and also like I know there's like a page on the SNC website where like you can like check like the study abroad programs, right? But like I don't know how exactly to check it because it was kind of like it was a lot, and I just didn't know what exactly to like look into, especially like for my major. But yeah, I had like the same question.
All right, perfect. No, that's totally fine. I will email both of you then. I know our study abroad page it's a lot. It's a lot, especially if you don't know where to go or what you're looking for. And that's part of what I do in my advising is we walk like initial advising appointments. If you don't know where to go or what you want to do, I walk through all the features in our website and kind of what to look for. I talk up to you about your goals and what you're looking for. Are you just looking for fulfilling certain classes for your major? Are you looking for an internship? We talk about a lot of that stuff too. So I will get you two set up with an advising appointment, and then we can talk through some programs that would be a good fit for you. Awesome. All right, do I have a question in the, oh, Grace had to leave, that's fine. All right. Anything else from anyone in the meeting today? Okay, I'm gonna stop recording.